I want you to think about a challenge or a problem or even an opportunity that perhaps you're not sure how to best take advantage of that's going on in your life right now. You know, a lot of times when we are dealing with our challenges, we're just looking for answers, and we might walk around talking to other people, calling people, researching to figure out what the right answer is. But one of the things that I have found from years of being a coach is that it isn't always about finding the answers, but finding the right questions to ask yourself that get you to the right answers. So I want to share with you 3 simple types of questions that can help you uncover the answers you need for the biggest challenges you face. But as I talk about them, I'm going to ask you to think about just one thing you'd love to solve in your life, one thing you'd like to make better, okay? You got something in mind? All right. So the most important thing is that we understand what the problem is that we're dealing with. But once we are clear about that, we should start by asking ourselves what I like to call probing questions. Probing questions are questions like, what are you afraid will happen if you move forward? Or what's really holding you back? Or what's that about? Right? So when I say what's that about, you know, you might have a negative feeling about something, or you've been having an emotional response to something and you keep getting stuck. Being able to say, what's that all about? Is about getting really honest with yourself and beginning to explore, what are the fears? What are the obstacles? What's really going on? When we can be honest with ourselves, we can find our way forward. So probing questions look to uncover those hidden fears, those frustrations, and just kind of put them out there. The second type of question is what I like to call an expansive question. An expansive question is one that gets you to see a bigger picture. Sometimes we get stuck in a rut. In fact, we come up with solutions and they're really, really narrow. So an expansive question could be something like, what would it feel like to resolve this issue once and for all? If your challenge is around money, for example, and you're frustrated because every month when all of the various bills come due, you feel like you never have enough. Or maybe you have just enough, but not enough to, you know, do some of the other things you might like to do that would just feel good. So an expansive question would be something like, what would have to happen for me to never worry about whether I could cover all my bills by the end of the month? What would have to happen for me to completely take control of my finances? What would it feel like for me to always have more than enough? When you ask those expansive questions, what you're really doing is you're looking at the possibilities. You might be asking yourself, what options haven't I considered? What would it feel like is a question that allows you to close your eyes for a moment and imagine what it would feel like in order for you to really move forward and have the kind of freedom that you want. And this applies whether we're talking about your finances or your health or your relationships or your career. Expansive questions are powerful questions because they get you to break out of your own self-defined limits to say, you know what, something different is possible. And then there's this last type of question, which is really simple, but it gets you moving. It's an action question. So if I want to pursue the thing that would allow me to feel like I'm living in abundance, for example, from the expansive question, an action question would be, so what's the next step to move in that direction? Your next step might just be talking to those who've been there and done that. Your next step might be a book that you're going to read. Your next step might be asking for more of what you want. But until you ask, what's the next step? What's the goal that I could set? Who is it that I should talk to and when will I do it? Until you ask that, you're really just pondering solutions, but not actually committing to implementing a solution. So, probing questions, uncovering those hidden fears, expansive questions, getting you to really see what your possibilities are, and action questions that move you forward. If you'll practice that, in all of my books, I ask lots of questions, and oftentimes I get this feedback that's like, oh, your questions were so hard, but so necessary. Thank you. I ask those questions because I always believe as a coach that it's not just important to help others to learn how to move forward and live more fulfilling lives, but it's equally as important to give them the tools to help them coach themselves in those situations where they might not have a coach. So start asking yourself the right questions, and you'll begin getting answers that move you to a level that you've never experienced but always wanted to. If you want more life strategies, just visit me on my blog. It's valerieburton.com/blog. I'll talk to you next time.